Sweet. All right. Is that out of the shot?
Yep, it's out of the shot.
All right. Test 1 2. We are currently at Trinity College. We are in, what is this? Is this our alma mater?
Yeah, this is the Sir Isaac Walton room.
This is the room that we've never known about, but we are now privy to because of special board access. Paul Mounds special board access privileges, right? I just say board access because it's funny. What's the real scenario here?
Well, first of all, thanks, Nile, for reaching out to me. We've been friends for a long time.
Yeah.
Since high school football days. This is we were looking for a room that would be a good room to be able to have this conversation, and couldn't think of a better place to be than the library and a very quaint and but yet historical setting that is the Sir Isaac Walton room.
Sir Isaac Walton room. Just so as everyone knows, we are currently filming Now with Nile. This is an interview series that I am starting and embarking on. It's a professional and personal passion project of mine, and I actually called up Paul the other day on his birthday, which is recently. Congratulations and happy birthday to you,
Thank
sir.
you.
And I just was talking about what my passion was and what I'm trying to do in my life, and we were just talking about his passion. I said, it's actually really funny. I'm going to be in Connecticut, and I would love to interview you. And look at us now, and we're sitting in the Sir Isaac Walton room, and I think it's a tremendous opportunity to learn more about you and just understand what it takes to be, really successful and solid human being in this world. And I think that in my mind and in a lot of other people's mind, you are certainly that. And I give a big hats off to you for being that and being an awesome person. Just to give a little bit of context, Paul and I originally met on the gridiron on the football field back in
2003.
That's when we graduated, so it was 2002.
No, 1999. 99, 2000, I got to do the thing. No, it was 2002. Yes.
2002.
Sorry.
I was postgraduate. I played football at Kent, and we played Loomis. It was the spoon game.
Yeah.
And
the Loomis Chafee School.
It was, he went to the Loomis Chafee School. The funny thing about it is you were number one, and you were the most feared player on the other team, and all my head coach, Coach Marble, kept saying is, this guy number one, you got to tackle him, you got to hit him hard. I was very excited about the opportunity to play you, and I kind of had your number, but it seemed like you had our number.
Yeah, I think in that game we drove down the field like a 70-yard drive to kick a game-winning field goal. On that drive, I actually jumped over you to get a first down.
Most likely. I think you had 3 touchdowns in that game.
I had 3 touchdowns, but I do remember jumping over you to get a first down.
You were the feared guy, and unfortunately in that game you got the best of me. But what happened was we ended up going to Trinity College together, where we are right now. And in Trinity College, it was funny because when you get here and you start playing athletics, we both played college football here. You size everybody up, and we immediately sized each other up because we knew. And there was a healthy rivalry at the beginning, and I think a lot of the tensions that were between us were easily smoothed over when we watched the game film.
Yeah.
And that was a pretty cool experience and a great way to bond.
It's still one of the most memorable athletic experiences I ever had in my life. I'll tell a little backstory going up to that game. We didn't beat Kent for 10 years, so I saw the fact that the whole student body and the faculty, staff of the school just didn't believe that we would win. We came into the game only with 2 wins that season. We were a team that didn't become a team until late.
Yeah.
And I actually made a speech in front of our whole school basically saying, we're not losing this game. People thought I was crazy. It was like one of those Joe Namath things, and I just felt that I needed to play my best. And that was a tough year for me overall. My best friend from my hometown, East Hartford, passed away in a car accident during that football season.
Sorry to hear that.
I threw out my shoulder, so I wasn't able to play my original position of quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So they would move me around in that game. I played a little quarterback because my arm was back.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was just that game was like a culmination of of really putting things together athletically and mentally for me. And it's still a pinnacle moment of my life that I still keep with me because of the perseverance that I needed to have during that whole year just to be able to not only play in that game but to graduate.
Yeah.
Because I was mentally it was a lot taken on for a kid at that age, and those were very formative times for my life.
That's amazing. It seems like perseverance has been something that has kind of been a catalyst and like a pillar in your life. We just mentioned that you went to Loomis Chaffee, but before that, I just want to kind of back up a little bit and just understand, who you were as a kid. Tell me about who you were as a kid, and any role models or idols that you might have had, influences. Would love to just learn a little bit more about that.
I'm a child of Hartford, Connecticut. I was born on Vine Street in Hartford, right across from the Thurman Milner School, which was a very tough area. I was born to my mother, Icy, my father, Paul Sr., who had kids at young age, but they had a mission for both myself and my older sister. And education was an important thing for them. I learned how to deal with and be persevered and really have strive and a focus from my two parents and my sister, who are my role models. My role models were people who were in my household. My sister is still one of the best athletes I've ever seen in my life. She was actually her varsity letterman jacket in high school, which I don't think anyone's ever had this on their back of the jacket, was basketball, track, and badminton.
Wow.
My sister was a 3-time state badminton champion.
Oh my, I actually didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's tremendous.
But no, I was born to, my mother and father both had their high school education when they both had my sister and I.
Wow.
And didn't really obtain a college education until my sister and I were young adults. But that didn't stop them from saying to us, education is the key for success and overall being a good person. There was a focus in the household about being a citizen, a good citizen, and giving back to your community. At a very young age, my father had my sister and I join him to deliver Meals on Wheels. We used to cook meals and bring it to the homeless shelter. And we definitely did not have a lot.
Yeah.
But we understood the importance of giving back and understanding of being one with your community. And that's something that I've always brought with me, no matter where I've gone in life. We used to watch, when we moved to East Hartford, we used to watch town council meetings, planning, zoning meetings. They wanted us to have a better understanding of what's going on in your community. Don't just be in your community, be a part of your community.
Wow.
So I just had a public service was something that was always innate with me because it came from my family, and we're always givers. We're never takers. But the one thing that we did do was take advantage of every opportunity provided to us, and also create the chance for opportunities to occur for us. One thing that I've lived by is the whole mindset of being incremental. We live in a world that is always about the moonshot. We got to get a man on the moon. We got to cure this. We got to do that. But we never think about the path to get to your goal.
Totally.
It's an incremental path.
Yeah.
If you want to, the best way to save money, people say, is if you take $1, you put it in an account. Next day, you put $2 more.
Yeah.
Next day, you put $3. Next day, you put $4. All of a sudden, it compound interest.
Yeah.
That's the best way that you can have wealth.
Yeah, long term.
That is the Warren Buffett theory of financial. Good brands, compound interest. But what do we talk about in terms of you as a person?
Yeah.
What's the compound interest you have in your life? The compound interest that I had was to get better 1% at a time. So by the time I am 18 years old, I'm a much better person than I was when I was 16, 15, 14.
Yeah.
By the time that I'm 25 years old, I'm a better person than I was 21, 20, 19. And now that I'm at 32 years old, I'm a much better person than I was last year. because it's about that incremental growth that I try to do on a daily basis.
I think a lot of what you just said, I can identify with on a personal level.
Yeah.
My mother, when I was young, we would do site visits to the old folks' homes,
Yeah.
and we would just literally spend the Saturday with them and go around. And we've done similar to Meals on Wheels.
Yeah.
We would do the Special Olympics, and we'd pack food, and we just try and be a part of the community as well. And I think despite our differences when we first met, on the athletic field,
Yeah.
we identified and connected
Yeah.
as human beings.
Yeah.
And I think even sitting with you now, we haven't seen each other in a
Yeah.
couple months, and it's been a while, and it's just amazing to sit down with you again, because everything that I knew you were, and our friendship has been and has taken to us too. It's great to see a lot of those values that started as a kid kind of still being instilled in you today. So do you have any specific examples of, I understand you went to town hall meetings. I understand that you got better 1% at a time. Was there a moment, or was there a time when your mother or father, said something to you that really made the 1% better per day, stick with you, and you said, what, this actually makes a lot of sense? Is there one moment or one instance that you
there's quite a few, but I'll give you just I'll give you two things. My father has always been good to say the most ridiculous sayings, and you don't really understand until you get older in life. So my dad used to say two things: you got to be a fighting mosquito.
Fighting mosquito, okay.
And you can't take wooden nickels from anybody.
You can't take wooden
nickels
from anybody. Okay.
So the part about being a fighting mosquito is this: when I got a scholarship to go to a prestigious prep school in Loomis Chaffee, I was walking in an environment where my socioeconomic level was not at the status of majority of the kids there. I damn sure didn't look like majority of the kids there. I didn't have the worldly experiences of those kids there. But I belonged there. But I belonged there. And when you're a fighting mosquito, mosquitoes are all around us. They are. Like, summertime, they're there. They're around us.
Yeah.
But you got to fight.
Yeah.
You got to keep buzzing.
Yeah.
And so what I did was, I was a part of everything on that campus. You could not tell me I did not belong there. I was the senior class president. I was tri-captain of basketball, baseball, and football team.
Wow.
I was the resident assistant and prefect at the school. I helped ran the AV team. I did a bunch of stuff. I showed people and I was active in the classroom, especially on the history and political science round. It's like, no. Like, you can say what you want, but I belong here.
Yeah.
And then on the whole point of just don't take wooden nickels, like I said, I never really understood what my father meant by it. You're going to get thrown a lot of things in life. Don't just take the fact that someone says, here, it's a nickel. You need to evaluate it. You need to understand it. Like, we live in this age where everyone talks about fake news this, fake news that. But you don't know it's fake news unless you do your research.
Yeah, take it with a grain of salt. Analyze it.
Where
did it come from?
Understand where it comes from.
Yeah.
And really be a student all of the time.
Wow.
Don't take wooden nickels from anybody.
That's amazing.
So those were two aspects that always stuck with me. As a kid, I never understood it. Never understood it. I never understood why my dad taught me how to play poker at a young age. He told me it's the art of understanding someone. You're sitting across the room. You might have 2-3 offsuit in your hand, but you can't show them that you're 2-3 offsuit. You got to show them you're ace king suited all of the time.
Straight up.
And so I walked in every room, and I not only played the part, I was the part. I made sure that I was there. I belonged.
Yeah.
In every aspect of my life, I was either the first person to be a part of it or one of the very few. But I couldn't act like that. I needed to act like that was there, because I knew that I needed to leave a better taste in people's mouth for the next person to come along.
Wow.
And those are some of those aspects that always stuck with me. Right.
So would you say, in terms of a belonging and being involved in the community, right? Like your father wanted you to be involved in the community, and then the second you get removed from that community and you're put into Loomis Chaffee, your prestigious prep school, you're immediately in the community more than I think anybody I've ever met. Me personally, I've been involved in a lot of things. I'm super active, and I can't really sit still, so that's part of the problem. But to hear tri-captain, to hear you involved in every single thing, president of the student body, making speeches in front of your school. How did you find the time to manage that? Or was that a learned skill? Was that a forced skill? Did someone give you that? How were you?
I knew. So here's another thing that I think people need to take in life. It's okay to quit some things. It's okay to say, this is not for me.
Not for me.
This is not for me.
But it's important to start
It's
and
important
try.
to start and try, but it's also to know, okay, this is not going anywhere. Do something else.
Got it.
I was a writer for the school newspaper. It wasn't working for me. I did something else. And I found that other thing was something that I was much more enjoyable at and I was good at. I would say I had to learn how to balance time. And I had to really understand and put a time limit on things.
Wow.
Think about that. Like
that's a really good.
I really had to say, you know what? I'm going to spend an hour on this. Then I have something else that I'm going to have to do. But I want to remember, I'm going to focus my complete hour on this. I think a lot of times, especially in this day and age, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, notifications on your phone, this and this and that, people don't really sit down and really dedicate the time that they need to for their task because something else is taking them away from it. So when I was in high school, when I was in college, and definitely in my professional life, if there was a task that I needed to take care of at hand, I would put a time to say that I need to spend 2 hours on this. And that allows me to give the best 2 hours I can give to it. Not a half-assed 25 minutes, but for a 2-hour time duration of what the task is supposed to be, a full 2 hours to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that it allowed me to be a much more complete person. It allowed me to be a much more honest person with myself. It allows me to be a much more successful person with myself.
It's really funny that you mentioned that because I actually, so I subscribe to a couple different journals.
Yeah.
5-minute journal.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you've heard of it.
I've heard of it, yeah.
But what you do is you write down a couple things in the morning and a couple things at night, and it allows you to set your intention for the day, set goals, affirmations, and then analyze what was good for the day and what was bad for the day. Through the same company, 5-minute journal also has another thing called productivity.
Yeah.
And I just read that, and I'm getting very much involved in how to be as productive as possible. And there's a technique developed by the Italians called the Pomodoro technique. Mm-hmm. And basically what it is you sit down, you have a defined task, and this is even more important in today's society because we're so, like you said, there's the moment of notification, Facebook, the Instagram, all this stuff is happening, and it's very easy to get distracted. And when you have all these micro distractions, it's very hard to actually accomplish tasks. So what the Pomodoro technique is very similar to what you're saying. It's clicking for me. Is that you sit down, you designate 25 minutes to the task, and then you have a 5-minute break. And then you designate 25 minutes to the task and you have a 5-minute break. And then you can look at your notifications and do whatever you want. But you're basically focusing on whatever that task is at hand, and then you're accomplishing it. It seems like you had this figured out,
I to a point.
So was there trial and error? I mean, to get to a level of like hyper, involvement, it seems like there's got to be trial and error.
A lot of trial.
Was there hiccups?
I think the biggest hiccup is people around you. Like, let's be honest. You're in college. You think you're in your room doing something. Hey, there's a game on. Come on, let's go watch it. You played a part in a lot of that.
Yeah, it was probably one of your bigger distractions, to be honest. I apologize for that.
Yeah, so it's just discipline, self-discipline. It's key. I think I think everyone innately has the ability to be successful in whatever they want to be successful in.
That makes sense.
But are you putting the time, the effort, the mental thought to be successful?
Yeah.
It goes back to the whole incremental.
Yeah, you don't get on the moon in 1 second.
No.
You have to get better one day.
Yeah.
You have to learn how to, build the spaceship and then analyze how to return on the spaceship.
Like I said, I had a lot of ebbs and flows in my life. I still continue to have ebbs and flows in my life. But I make it a goal to strive to be better than I was yesterday.
It's a great goal.
And that's what it's about. You have to be better than what you were in the past.
So is that a philosophy that you live by today, or was there a philosophy or something that you subscribed to when you were in high school that allowed you to kind of have the courage to be such an involved?
I think the easiest, like I said, I didn't really put it in a more philosophical manner, but I would say the easiest thing that I try to stay by was don't be mediocre. But it was mostly from an athletic standpoint.
Yeah.
I took, like I said, I'm an athlete at heart, and I took what I learned in the football field, baseball field, basketball court, and applied it to my life. I loved and thrived at competition. I loved competing. I didn't like to see that I wasn't given the opportunity to succeed, and I didn't like to fail. So I took upon myself that. And I'll tell a story as it deals with my time here at Trinity College.
Sure.
And apply it, but I tried to say I did not want to be mediocre. And when I realized that I was being mediocre, I needed to do something to fix it. I could have been, and so I'll go to my story. And you were a member of the football team with me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I played very well at times, and I was an all-conference player as a senior, and was a part of our
streak,
our record streak, and 3 championship teams that we're a part of. It still hurts me to this day that I was not a better player, and it didn't click to me until late in life, until my senior year. I allowed my athletic ability to try to lead how I played on the field, and it didn't really click to me that I could have been 1,000% better player than I was, even though I was good.
Yeah.
1,000% better player than I was if I took the time earlier in my athletic career to understand it's not only about what you do on the field, it's about what you do off the field. It's about watching film, understanding yourself. Like, just understanding what your opponent is doing, having a full understanding of that.
Yep.
Having your body in the right state of mind to play at a top level. I ate awful on this campus.
I can witness,
I
attest to that.
So, and I can imagine myself, if I put my body in a better state, could have been a better player if I really put it together. And I saw people that we played with who really put it together, and they did great things.
Yeah.
I did good things.
Yeah.
And I didn't put it all together.
Is there regret? Do you have regret?
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to somebody who thinks that they're there from an athletic standpoint and is saying, I'm there, and they're doing great, and maybe they're second team all-league? What do you say to that person?
What I say to that person is, you always can be better. I know exactly the moment it clicked for me.
Tell me.
Exactly the moment it clicked for me. It clicked for me my junior year against Amherst, which was eventually the 500th win in Trinity College history, and I gave up 2 touchdowns to deep posts to an inferior wide receiver because I was complaining about my back hurting. But it wasn't about that. I was a better athlete than that kid. I didn't adjust.
Wow.
You have to adjust in life.
Nimble.
You have to be nimble. You have to understand your abilities.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized I need to have a better evaluation of understanding my abilities. And when I did, I was 1,000% better player the next year.
So let's stop on that. Understanding your abilities. It's okay to quit something. So that tells me that, from a younger age, I mean, you were analyzing yourself, self-aware. Right? There's a degree of self-awareness.
Well, the best way you can be self-aware is when everyone sees your mistakes.
Yep.
And you feel the guilt and the pain from your mistakes being out there. There is no great equalizer to make you realize what you are doing right or wrong than when you're an athlete.
Correct.
There's no great equalizer.
Yeah, I mean, you're literally on stage.
You're getting instant results.
And feedback.
And feedback.
Positive or negative.
And it was instant. Gave it 2 touchdowns. We were losing to a team that we should have lost to. We were beating them everywhere else. And it clicked for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I will never... So there's an article that I've kept. Was my last home game playing here.
Mm-hmm.
And we beat Amherst. It was basically coming back from that game from last year. My roommates, you were on the floor, so you know this, because you lived across the hall from me. I kept a VCR and a TV in my room that whole season. And I would come back to the...
I remember the VCR on the TV.
And I would...
in the left.
Yeah, And I would come back to the bedroom. People didn't know. And I would watch tape. And I would watch it. And I would watch it. Not because I was trying to self-loathe. I was watching because I was better educating myself.
Mm-hmm.
If this guy lines up like this, he's running these routes. And if he's lined up that way, that means he's only running 5 routes. If he's running 5 routes, this is how I can defend it. Now I can be an athlete. Now I can go after and really make plays.
Yeah.
And so in that article, the guy asked me a question like, you played a great, this is your last home game, Paul, you played a great game, you did this, this, and that. And I basically said this, I never forget what I said. I said to him, I didn't like how I played last year when I gave up 2 touchdowns, so I made sure that I knew everything that was going on the field.
Mm-hmm. So preparation.
I was better prepared for the situation. I didn't allow my God-given innate abilities just to live on. Deion Sanders, I played cornerback, and I know we'll talk about other things in my life, but I think this really defines who I am. Like, everyone talks about Deion Sanders as being an amazing athlete.
Mm-hmm.
That, he does this, and that. People don't see how he prepares.
Yeah.
Deion Sanders, if you talk to the people and read about the people who played with him and practiced with him and was around him, said that he was the most prepared football player on the field. He knew what everybody's position was. He knew what everything that person should do. So when you do that, you can let your ability shine.
Yeah.
Because you know how to deal with the situation. You don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
You're already naturally reacting.
That's tremendous.
I was thinking too much on the football field. And it played a role into how I was. I was overanalyzing things to a point that I wasn't actually educating myself about the situation. I was analyzing it as it was happening.
Mm.
And so I was being too slow.
Wow. So speed, self-awareness, speed.
And I applied that to what I did in my job. My job allowed me to take those same attributes that I realized and apply it.
Let's talk about, just really quick, some brief summary of, what did you major in?
I was a political science major, concentration in American government and politics.
That's a mouthful.
It is.
All right. So we all knew that when we went to school together, and you were very involved as you always were. Mm-hmm. You had an internship when you worked when you were here at Trinity.
Yeah.
Can you just briefly touch on that?
I was a member of the Trinity College legislative internship program. One of the biggest reasons why I wanted to go to Trinity College was it was a school that was located in a city. Mm-hmm. That was not only a city, but it was a capital city. So I can be an active participant in the legislative process and learn.
What did you get out of that?
Everything.
Everything. From this internship.
Everything. I don't know when it's going to air, but last night, earlier in the week, from our conversation, I actually caught up with the senator, the state senator, who was my mentor.
Sure.
And he was the chairman of the Energy and Technology Committee. And I wanted to learn. I wanted to understand the process, but I wanted to learn from somebody who was introspective about the process. Mm-hmm. Not just the wheeler and dealer, but who actually thought policy. And I wanted to see how you think about policy and how you apply it and how you utilize the emotions that comes from the advocacy of policies and the fact that there's someone who's advocating for and advocating against, and how you have to be the arbiter to figure out what is the right solution for everyone as a whole. Mm-hmm. And that's what I learned. I learned how to really be a better thinker because of that internship. And it allowed me to apply and put everything together. Yeah. My athletic side and the competition and the analysis that I do, the thoughtful side, the person who studies and wants to have a better understanding of policy,
Mm-hmm.
and then the part of the side of me that had a father who taught me how to play poker, and not to take wooden nickels from somebody.
Ah, smart.
Not just to take just any words that's coming out of someone's mouth.
Yeah.
Hey, this play, Paul, this is a great bill, and the governor needs to be on board with it. You need to ask questions. You need to understand the subject. It used to freak people out when they would come and have meetings with me, and I would know more about the topic than they would. And I would just look at them like, you're not really doing your homework. Cause
preparation.
Because I eat, drink, sleep what this is. That internship taught me so much.
So what is politics to you?
Politics to me, I have a different definition of politics than most people. Politics to me is a study of people, emotion, and overall direction for the greater good. You have to understand people. One thing that I learned in Trinity from my studies here is the thought process of a lawmaker.
Okay.
And the thought process is, I want to say Richard Fenno, who was a historian from University of Rochester,
Okay.
said this, that the driving force of a legislator is to pass good public policy and to be reelected or elected. So now let's break that down. And also the third thing he said was to have status and prestige within the legislative body.
Okay.
So basically someone who could be a chairman of a committee, speaker of the House, Senate pro tem, things of that sort.
Yeah.
A title. You can't pass good policy or have a title and be in a position of prestige if you don't get elected.
Correct.
So it shows that one of the biggest driving forces for an elected official is to be elected. You can't get elected without having a full understanding of your electorate.
Sure. So you have to understand the people
You have to understand
and the process to get there.
to get there.
Interesting.
And then the last part turns about direction. It's going to show whether or not you are a person who is there for the betterment of the whole or the betterment of self. It will show. And then the electorate will make their decision whether or not you should be the person representing them. And I was lucky enough to work for a legislator for the internship who did not want prestige,
Rare.
didn't care about title, cared about two things. Cared about his constituency, and he cared about good public policy. And I got lucky. I got lucky that John Fonfera from Hartford, Connecticut chose me to be his legislative intern.
Wow.
And that internship changed everything for me. Everything.
So where did it lead you? So you graduated Trinity?
I graduated from Trinity, and Senator Fonfera played an important role of recommending me for a position in Congressman John Larson's office.
Wow.
Who was my congressman. He's from my hometown. And my first role in his office was press assistant and federal grants coordinator.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah. My role was to set up the events locally for him here. Like we had forums, we had anything that involved the press, like help write press releases. And then the biggest role that I had was to help drive and bring money back to the district, helping nonprofits with their federal grant applications,
Yep.
Writing letters of support for their application,
Grassroots.
keeping up with the agencies about their applications, helping to resolve problems and errors that may have or have not occurred, and also answer the phones and listen to people.
Give me one example of one time somebody called you and it made you realize, hey, what we're doing here is making a difference.
God, I had a lot. They make me go back. We had We had a woman who called in, and she wanted to. She kept hearing about her father, her grandfather,
Mm-hmm.
talk about war medals that he had, and that how he was in the war and things of the sort, but didn't have the medals, and she wanted us to help figure out and solve the problem because he was short on years, and he kept talking about medals that he wanted, so she wanted us to help. And we went through the application process, and we found out that he wasn't just some person. He was awarded the Bronze Star and a Purple Heart.
Wow.
And we were able to present to her and her grandfather and the whole family all of the medals that he was bestowed for serving our country.
Wow. That is
And
tremendous.
that one was very touching. And I can go many stories. There's people that we helped get their health care benefits and Social Security that they desperately needed. There was that job really put in perspective, and I feel that everyone who works in politics needs to feel what it feels like to have someone call you on the phone and say that they need your help. It sits with you.
Yeah.
In the moments that I experienced in that office, in the offices after that, it sat with me because I knew when I went to the grocery store, when I went to the mall, and the people I'm looking at, I'm like, these are people who, they call because they need help.
Yeah.
You can't take that for granted.
And do you think that politics, I mean, look, we're living in a crazy age now with politics, and it's sometimes becoming a reality TV show. I mean, is that often overlooked now, the grassroots touching of the actual demographic who need the support of the legislature and government that is,
I think we live in a time where individual ideology masked as the ideology of the people that they're sworn to serve is blinding. It's blinding. We also live in an age where we can't sit down and compromise on an issue. We can't sit down and move forward incrementally. Congress right now is in a complete, I want to say it's in a complete disarray.
Yeah, seems like it. I mean,
we live in an age where, and it's a lot of things that you can point to, whether it's term limits, whether it's special interest, whether it's money flooding to politics. There's so many different things. But I can say at the basic core, people do not look at each other as human beings.
Love thy neighbor, right? Like back in the 50s, if you needed milk, you would go to your neighbor and they would give it to you. Now it seems to be that your neighbors...
Now everyone's looking for the victory.
Elaborate on that.
Let's take, for example, Obamacare, for example. It's been stated that there's certain issues because of rising premiums, the cost of health care, and such. Even though this is a program that has provided more health insurance than any other program of its type in our nation, in lowering the rate of uninsured at an amazing rate. So we can come to the conclusion and say, hey, you know what? There needs to be fixes to it. We need to incrementally work on it to move it forward this year. We can't do that because we got to blow it up.
Victory.
We need the victory. We need the victory. Obamacare needs to go. And so what you see is
start, stop. Start, stop. There's no building off of something.
There's no building off of it.
So this is very interesting because, from a standpoint of you had this amazing experience in high school. You played Trinity college football. You were extremely successful both athletically and academically. You had an amazing internship that kind of changed how you saw things. The way the world started to operate made sense to you.
Yeah.
You got into politics. You did that for a number of years, and recently, we can get into some of the specifics about, later in more recent politics, but more recently, you left politics.
Yeah, I took a step back.
How did that feel?
I didn't leave public service.
But you left politics.
Just for now.
Okay.
For now. So after that first job, the best part about working in government or political office is your progression happens fast. I went from being a press assistant to a press secretary, to the communications director for Congressman Larson's Washington D.C. and Connecticut offices.
Okay.
From that, I went to being the interim communications director for the House Democratic Caucus, because John Larson became the chairman of the House Democratic Caucus. So I was basically the voice of the caucus in an interim basis for over 190 members.
Wow.
I went from that to being probably one of the youngest deputy state directors in the United States Senator's office when I went to work for United States Senator Richard Blumenthal. And then I took a job with Governor Malloy.
Yeah.
And became his senior policy analyst, working on energy and technology issues, going back to my internship, and transportation and economic development. And then I showed what I can do there, and he came up with the crazy idea against a lot of people's thought processes to say, hey, let's make Paul our legislative director.
Wow.
After 1 year. And it was one of the greatest experiences ever. And I became legislative director, and then I became the senior director in charge of policy and government affairs. So
amazing.
Create the policies and put together the strategy to get through, and then I decided to take a break.
That's amazing. It seems like an incredible journey.
Fast. So I'll tell you about the journey.
Yeah.
I knew that was the journey I wanted to go on. You know how? I told myself, not only verbally, it was also written down.
Gotta write it down.
That
power of the pen, baby.
My goal professionally is to be a senior staffer for a governor or a member of Congress. I accomplished that fairly early in life.
Tremendous.
And I actually know where it's written down too. Not only I wrote it down, but I was interviewed for one of our game day brochures. I actually remember the game. It was the Tufts game. Let me just remember. Yep, it was the Tufts game, our senior year. And in that brochure, they asked me what I wanted to do. They talked about my community service, and I said, "This is what I want to do. I want to be a senior staffer for a governor or a member of Congress."
Wow.
Okay, I accomplished that goal. What's next? And so, but you need time to figure out what's next.
It's crazy because what we talk about is like you talking about what you learned, lessons you learned from your father. You don't just become the man the man walking on the moon. There's the 1% better every day. You wanted to hit your target and be a senior staffer.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't hit it in a year. You didn't hit it in 3 years.
And I think
it took a very, very long time and a lot of ups and downs and a lot of work, hearing the people, going through the pain, hearing the process to get there.
Yeah. And
then once you go through that, that's when you feel like you actually deserve and earn it. Because if you get it in a day or you get it in 2 years, you don't go through the process. You haven't earned it. You've earned it.
I'm completely, I was fulfilled. And in terms of earning it, was the realization of understanding your path. I think one of the biggest problems with young individuals who wants to get into politics, They want to be the United States Senator. They want to be the Congressman. They want to do all that overnight. They don't understand the work to get there.
Yeah.
They don't understand the path, the thought process. They haven't even created a process for them to get there.
Is that in politics or is that just in general?
It's in general.
Yeah.
It's in general. I think probably in your field of real estate, you probably have someone who wants to be the top broker, the partner in the firm, and blah, blah, blah. They don't understand, okay, the research, the time, the effort.
The 10,000 hours. I mean, you legitimately have to go through it. Unless there's some crazy connection where your father, your mother, your family, you're this, you're that. But that's the 1% of the time. And for the most people, you have to put it out there. You have to put yourself out there on a consistent basis. It's not about, you want to do it for 1 week or 1 month or 1 year and then all of a sudden it happens. No, it's putting yourself out there, being self-aware, looking back at your failures, looking back at your successes and saying, how can that success be even better? How can I be better next time?
Yeah. So one of the things that I say to interns that worked for me in the legislative, when I was in the state capitol here in Connecticut and elsewhere, I always ask them, if you had to write your brand statement, what is it? Who are you? What's your brand? And what are you doing to enhance your brand? My brand was this. I was born in an urban city of Hartford, provided and earned the opportunity to go to a prestigious prep school. Utilized that opportunity to continue to better myself and wanted to better my community, and put myself in a position where I can continue that success of growth personally and outwardly. That's my brand. I don't need to put it on Facebook. I don't need to go on Twitter. The people who know me, they know what I'm about. Because I live it every day.
You are what you preach. You are who you say you are.
If you want to put out to be successful, you need to show that you want to be successful. You have to be about success. But you also understand and surround yourself and learn about successful people.
Yeah. So talking about successful people, it seems like you had a lot of great mentors, not only, like through your early childhood stage, your mother, your dad. It seems like you had an unbelievable cast of government and political mentors. Who, and this is going to be a tough question, because I'm sure you've given voice to a lot of them. I'm sure you've said, hey, I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hey, who, right now, I want you to give voice to one person who you've never given voice to before ever, who has been influential in making you the man who you are today, that you've never given voice to. Take a moment to think about it.
Never really told them my appreciation.
Or publicly, to anybody. Because there's always one person who's helped you and been a catalyst.
That's a good question. I tried to be very appreciative of people. Wow. Damn. Actually, you know what? My middle school teacher.
There we go.
Roosevelt Cooper. He's the social studies teacher at East Hartford Middle School. He was funny. He was hilarious. He was a very strong black man. And his presence, his caring, made me a better person. He made me care about social studies. He made me care about history.
Wow.
And I just immersed it. I would say he's someone that I have told him and let him know like my appreciation. I don't think I've done it to a full extent. When my parents wanted me to apply to Loomis Chaffee, a lot of there was a few teachers at East Hartford Middle School that thought you're wasting your time. I actually had one teacher who told me that if you do get in, you'll be back here in a year. Very helpful to tell a 13-year-old that.
Yeah.
He was like, you get it and you kicked its ass. You get it and you go and you own it and you be about it. And you have support and you earn the opportunity to be there.
That's unbelievable.
Like that, it was good to have that support. And I know I'm not the only person that he's played a very important part in their lives. So I would say Roosevelt Cooper, social study teachers, East Hartford Middle School.
Wow, that's a great story. I'm glad you brought voice to Roosevelt. Did you call him Mr. Cooper?
Mr. Cooper.
Kind of fun hanging with Mr. Cooper.
Yeah.
Do you know where he is now?
I don't. I know that I want to say that he's retired from East Hartford Middle School.
If you could do one thing for me post interview, if you could find him, call him and just say thank you. I think that'd be an amazing thing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, look, I don't think, we can leave an interview without asking, Paul Mounds, what makes you tick? And I don't really want to say it in that way, but I know you think. I think the thing about you is you have an unbelievable ability to connect with people. You have an unbelievable ability to be a presence, but in a subtle way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not loud.
But you're a presence, in a subtle way, which is kind of funny, And I think, look, if you look at your mother and father, I mean, your mother's a little quiet. Your father's got charisma for days.
My dad has charisma for days, but my mom is a force. Icy Lynn Mounds is a force.
She is a force. Like I feel like there's some of your father, but the majority of who you are
is my mother.
Is your mother. What superpower do you think that you have that may have came from your mother? I mean, is there any superpowers that you, Paul Mounds Jr., have? What is it?
Caring.
Caring.
I care about people. I care about community. I would say that I care probably more about others than I probably do about like my own self.
Yeah.
I love to take the time to understand people, especially those that I'm around. I try not to be. You can attest to this. This is just how I am as a person. I try not to be the peacock in the room. I just never. That was just not who I was. I was there. People noticed me. I used to always get confused for people. People used to always think that I was took my confidence as an arrogance, but they never really realized that I'm a person who's very very much to himself at times.
Mm-hmm. I've seen that.
And I have been. Some of my friends used to call it my hibernating state, but I care. I care. I read things and I get concerned about it.
Yeah, I want to investigate more.
I want to investigate more.
Might want to field a couple phone calls about it.
Yeah, and I think that's why it worked so well in the field that I worked in.
Yeah.
In politics / public service.
Sure.
And I think the hardest part of my job as a legislative director and policy director was when it comes down to it, there's only so much resources that you can provide for an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to sit there and say, there's a certain constituency, it's a certain group, a certain community that might get hurt by this policy.
Mm.
And you really, and that's why it's important to have caring people in our most important positions. They need to understand, as my father used to always tell me, all right, before you make that decision, make a pro and con list, write it down, and then as I got older, I realized what he was telling me to do. You need to understand the full extent of the situation before you make your decision.
Correct. Empathy, too.
Yeah.
You have to understand everything from everybody's perspective. Because life, for every individual, is different.
Yeah. And I've never tried to prejudge a person, a situation, or a moment. I wanted to always get a deeper understanding of it before I make my decision or judgment call on it. So I think one of the, if there was that power, it's just that the caring aspect that I have, and I get that from my mom. I get it from my dad too.
I mean, both of them are the most generous and giving
my
people
dad
I've
is
ever met.
My dad as a staffer and at Manchester Community College has mentored more kids than many people have known, and kept kids on track. Not only to graduate from the 2-year school, but to graduate from college and have a better, more fulfilled life.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not done yet.
Not done. So tell me what's next. What's next for you? I mean, it seems like you let the politics things go for now. And you recently had a big personal moment.
Yes.
And could you tell me a little bit about that?
I am going to get married.
Congratulations.
I'm engaged to Samaya Margaret Hernandez, who is currently the Flint Bureau reporter for WNEM TV5, a CBS affiliate in mid-Michigan.
Wow.
Funny story is, we actually met 2 years before we actually started dating. I was just intrigued with her mind. I was intrigued with her thoughts, and I was just intrigued with. She was somebody I just never even saw or been around.
Yeah.
And it was just intriguing for me. And I actually didn't think that she thought I was her type, so I didn't even ask her out.
Wow.
She actually called me out on Facebook.
God bless Facebook, baby.
Called me out on a Facebook message saying, "Hey, I saw you at an event, but you didn't really come and say hi to me. What was up with that?" And that's how we actually started talking.
There's the introvert in you.
That's the introvert in me. And so, yeah, I after 5 years of being the legislative, being a legislative director and policy director in the governor's office in Connecticut, I decided that it was best for me to move on and be a part of her, to follow her dream of being an on-air newscaster.
That's
so
very brave and courageous.
So
I'm
supporting that. Right now, I'm consulting and looking to expand upon a consulting and consultancy. And right now, I'm a consultant for the largest energy company in New England.
Fantastic.
It's a Fortune 500 company, and I'm helping them with their public policy. And so that's my first client that I've got. And on top of it, it allows me to continue everything else that I love.
Good.
Being the youngest member of the board of trustees of Trinity College.
Congratulations! That's a huge honor, by the way.
It was. I was very humbled to be asked to be a part of an institution that's done so much for me.
That's amazing.
So I use that and help mentor kids here and attract kids here and let them know about what the school's done for me and how they can create their own story.
Yeah,
it's really
their own personal brand.
It's all about you creating your own story. And so, coming from the prep school time, and you know this, Nile, people talk about taking a sabbatical, and it allows them to kind of do things for a year. And so I've come to the conclusion I'm taking a sabbatical this year.
Great.
And I'm really figuring out the next 10, 20, 30 years. I'm doing my planning processes.
That's amazing.
And but I've enjoyed the journey so far, but I know there's more left to go, and I've utilized this time to further touch on that side that I haven't been able to touch on in a while, and it's the education side. Reading more. I love scholarly journals. I love reading different reports and studies and getting an understanding of that and trying to be better and one with myself. And that's something that I'm continuing doing as part of this year of discovery.
That's amazing. You know, I really think that what you're doing is honorable. I think it's noble, and I also think it's fitting. Because you've done so much in such a short amount of time. It happened quickly, but like I was talking about earlier, you need to earn it. And if anybody can say, hands down that you've earned it, I'm happy to say it. I'm really proud of you.
Thanks.
As a person, as a friend, as a old foe and enemy back in the day.
No, I will say the thing about you and I now, and the one thing that you didn't mention is the fact of how close our parents are.
Yeah, that's
with
true.
each other. And I think that's a telling side too, because they have the same spirits.
Correct.
The same spirits, and I think that emanates with how we became friends. Like I said, we're as much as we're different, we're so much alike.
Correct.
And I think one of the funniest moments that I will share is, you remember this, and you could be a part of this discussion, the biggest argument that we ever got into.
Which one?
The biggest argument that we ever got into right before a football game.
Oh, yeah, the Bowden game.
Yes.
I wasn't focused.
You was not focused.
Paul was a little upset about
I got a little upset.
Unfocused I was.
And our coach actually tried to break us up, and we pushed him aside so we can keep arguing with each other.
We no holds barred back in the day. We were a little loose, and
yeah, like I said, I was a person who believed in you if you talk so much, whether it's in the office setting, boardroom, athletic field, when you really need to say something, it's not heard.
Mm.
So the funny thing about that argument we had, everybody else was watching us because they never saw me get like that.
Yeah.
I was always I wasn't like the rah-rah guy. I was the guy who used to listen to smooth jazz before games. to get me.
Talk about complete opposites.
Complete opposite. So, yeah, no, I believed in you pick your spots. And believe me, like, there was a reason why I did it. It wasn't to really go after you. I knew you were focused for the game.
That was part of my process.
That was your process.
Yeah, yeah.
We had a bunch of underclassmen who didn't have a process.
Yeah.
And after we lost that first game of that season,
yeah,
they needed to figure out how to put it together. Yeah. And that was my way of saying,
put it together.
Put it together.
Yeah. And it's crazy because, like, at the beginning you mentioned how, you were so talented athletically, like God-given, and you kind of let it slip, and you might not have done, like, the film. On my end, I wasn't the most talented athletically. I worked hard, and I also I was in the film room more than anybody, I think, and I spent a lot of time in the film room. I knew that if that lineman's knuckles were white, that means he's putting too much pressure on it. It means it's going to be a run. Right. So like I was to that detail, so that I was able to let go and get people amped up and do that. Yeah. And we did lose a game, and to have you kind of reel me in, as a leader, wasn't easy because I was like, what are you talking about?
We were in the same class with each other. And it was just like,
but I think it was funny because that's a great moment. We've had a couple disputes. We've had disputes. Part of our lives together were disputes.
Yes,
but that's how we grew. Is like I want to understand you, you want to understand me. Like there's a core, fundamental belief in character. Who we both embody, but we do it in a different way. I'm a little bit more out there, and I'm more happy to be in front and in the limelight. You're more quiet and steady, and that works for you and that works for me. And it's funny because
but in the trenches, we each turned it on in a different way. Yeah, like I was a talker on the field.
Yeah. Like, came out D1, baby.
I would yell at D1. I would go crazy on the field, but when I was off the field, I was. Yeah. It was my playing football, being on the field, working in the governor's office, creating legislation and policies to help change the state, working in Congress and dealing with big moments, whether it was the Gabby Giffords issue, whether it was a workplace shooting that happened here in Manchester, Connecticut, whether it was trying to push forward policies through. That brought out a different side of me.
Tenacious side too. It's as humble and quiet as you can be.
When it was when the lights came, when the lights came, and care about. When the lights came on,
it's go time.
It's go time. Yeah. And that still hasn't lived with me. Like I'll give you a quick example about the Gabby Giffords shooting. I was the interim communications director for the House Democratic Caucus at the time. And I was actually at BWI Airport. about to go take a flight so I can go home to Connecticut for a day to get a bunch of clothes and then come back to Washington. Because remember, I was the interim, so I wasn't the full-time guy. I was holding it over because the then communications director left to go work in the Obama administration. And I look at the TV and it's on CNN and they're talking about a shooting that's occurred in Tucson, Arizona. And I'm like, oh, that's awful. What's going on there? And they said it was a congresswoman. It didn't hit me. Oh man. I gotta be, I'm a part of this moment. I'm not a spectator.
Whoa.
Right before getting on the flight, I left the flight, took the train back from Baltimore to DC, went right into that office. Had the congressman on the phone because he's the chairman of the Democratic caucus, so he has to be the one serving as the voice of the caucus and really trying to get the information gathering, understanding what our messaging was and things of that sort. We did a huge conference call the next day, and I had to help plan that and the messaging and things of that sort to really kind of set the tone of how are we not only going to express the feeling of members of Congress to the general public, but how are we also going to express to the staff of these 535 members of Congress in DC and in their districts as well?
Yeah.
Because that was the moment it finally hit me. Oh man, I'm in a job that could be dangerous.
Crazy.
Didn't hit me before. And I remember there's a picture that was taken from that press conference, and you could just see my face just like in awe, like I was kind of worried and scared about everything. But I also realized the lights are on now. You gotta
Time to step it up,
you
baby.
have to work, and you have to put things together. You need to provide counsel to the member of Congress, and you have to talk to your colleagues in the other offices about how we're doing messaging and what are we telling getting across and what are the next steps going forward. That moment played a part in my life when